Hello, and welcome to a very special edition of Shamrock Sports, as we're not only celebrating Junior Parents Weekend, but also a great buzzer beater from Olivia Miles as the Irish took down the Cardinals. JJ, what's your thought?
I mean, Olivia Miles has been the star for this Notre Dame team all year. She leads the team in points, rebounds, assists. There's nothing Notre Dame could want her to do that she doesn't do more. But these are the moments where a star is made. Miles has been a player that's been so good for so long, but she's only a sophomore. You know, she hadn't really had her coming out moment to the country yet. That's the type of fadeaway with the game on the line against a top-tier opponent that gives you that star moment. Miles is a player that for Notre Dame is going to be a centerpiece now and going forward, and a player that for the rest of the nation, the eyes need to be open.
And see, I like to call her Olivia Miles Jordan, reminding me of Michael in 1989 in Cleveland, hitting the game-winning runner over Craig Elo. Just shows what a great shot maker she is and what a bright future the Irish have as they try to make some noise in the tournament this year. But basketball wasn't the only one making headlines this week. Stay tuned for the rest of the Irish sports news here on Shamrock Sports. From the second floor of the Duncan Student Center, it's Shamrock Sports. I'm John Bailey alongside Andrew McGuinness and JJ Post, and we're here for a very special Junior Parents Weekend episode. We have quite the audience out here today. And
that's the first time we had an audience, I think, ever, so that's a start.
It's the first time I ever got claps when I heard that, but how are we feeling, guys? We excited for the weekend?
I'd say just excited because it's a big week of sports. Obviously, we talked about in the intro, Olivia Miles walking off the game last night against Louisville, Notre Dame women's basketball, looking once again like one of the premier teams in the sport, something I don't think we've really seen in a long time. Getting back to where they were as a Blue Bird program, that's something to be excited about. Obviously, big football news with the offense coordinator hiring going on and all of the other extracurricular activity that was going on with that offense coordinator hiring. Just a lot of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, definitely. Lot of news in football. We're going to get to that in just a second. Andrew, anything you're most looking forward to this weekend with your family here in town?
Well, none of my favorite sports teams can lose a championship this weekend, so that's good. If anyone watched last week's show, they know all about that. Hey, I was right. You know, I may be sad,
right.
but at least I was right. So,
yeah.
Vindication, maybe, kind of.
And in just a couple of months, we'll see if perhaps our favorite sports team, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish football program, can win a national championship. All reports are in that they're going to be promoting tight ends coach Gerad Parker to the offensive coordinator position, left vacant by Tommy Rees. How do we feel about this, guys? Does it move the needle for you? Do you think this makes us a contender up there with Alabamas and Georgias of the world?
I mean, it's a strange hire to say the least. You know, throughout the process, it seemed pretty evident that Freeman was prioritizing experience, someone who had been around the block before. You know, you look at the guys he was looking at. Andy Ludwig, someone who spent 20 years bouncing around the college football from, you know, Utah to Vanderbilt to Wisconsin. He's a guy who had been there before. You know, look at the other names kind of on the rumored list. Guys that had been in office coordinator positions, in play calling positions, and then they pivot to Gerad Parker, who has 2 years of office coordinator experience at West Virginia. It's not really clear what his play calling duties were at West Virginia because he was running Neil Brown's offense. Neil Brown, of course, is an offensive-minded head coach, so he had his own scheme. It's not really clear who was calling the plays there, who was creating the plays there. So it's just strange all around, especially, you know, Freeman's emphasis has been we want pro-style offense. We're going to build through the lines. And Parker, it remains to be seen what his offense will look like, but he's a disciple of the air raid. He ran a lot of spread stuff at West Virginia. It's not really a scheme that necessarily, if you look at purely what he did at West Virginia, translates to what Freeman has ostensibly said he wants this offense to look like. So it's kind of interesting to see, you know, what was given and what was taken there, what Freeman was, you know, maybe sacrificed than what he initially wanted, what Parker was able to obviously bring to the table in the interview process because he was not obviously the first choice. And it's something I think we're going to find out a lot about in the coming months because now you've got about a couple weeks to prepare for spring ball and then you've got a whole new offense to learn.
Yeah, to JJ's point, it's going to be interesting to see how Sam Hartman fits in this new offense. You obviously mentioned the air raid, of course. Hartman, a tremendous passer, one of the most gifted quarterbacks Notre Dame's had in the last 15 years, maybe going back to Jimmy Clausen or Brady Quinn. So maybe that's part of the decision for Freeman in terms of bringing in someone who, you know, like you said, JJ, has experience with like an air raid pass-heavy offense. But overall, it just does kind of feel like a meh hire, which is weird because last year, you know, continuity was the name of the game for Notre Dame's offseason last year. That was talked about big time with the decision to promote Freeman head coach, with Tommy Rees staying as offensive coordinator. Continuity was seen as a very good thing for this Notre Dame program. The players said they wanted to keep the culture that had been built up during the Brian Kelly era. They felt like that culture was good and went beyond the departure of Kelly, and that it could stay if the coaching staff remained, you know, largely intact, which it sort of did over the offseason. Obviously, you had the two main guys in Freeman and Rees staying. But this time, going continuity, it seems like a bad thing almost. You know, obviously Notre Dame coming off just an okay season, of course. not what they were expecting quite under year one Freeman. It did end with some positive momentum, but it kind of feels like that's gone now. Just hire just doesn't have a lot of juice to it necessarily, and so it's going to be interesting to see really how it plays out over time.
Yeah, I completely agree with that sentiment. There's just a lot less upside, I feel like, with this hire. In order to reach that upper echelon with all the restrictions that Notre Dame has, we have to, kind of take risks sometimes. And it's going for, a group of 5 coach, for someone who that hasn't been, at that big stage yet, and kind of taking a chance. Parker, I'm just disappointed in that. You talked about his time at West Virginia. It's really not, the most exciting.
It's unspectacular, and that's not the best thing you can say.
And I feel like the little Tootsie Pop owl right now. How many interceptions this guy throw in a game? 1, 2, 3, just again and again and again. And I know Gerad, Virginia's quarterback, not the best, obviously, but at the end of the day, you can't make those type of throws, and that's on coaching. Just a lot of errors in reading coverage, just not able to step into the pocket. And look at this, potential game winner against Maryland, sails into the end zone, and it's like he's throwing it right to the defensive back. That is on the offensive coordinator at the end of the day, and I just don't trust Parker to get the most out of Sam Hartman, who is arguably the most talented quarterback we've had since Brady Quinn. Speaking like other candidates, I know you, JJ, you spoke about Andy Ludwig from Utah. That has been, a name that's been thrown out a lot. That was Marcus Freeman's guy, the one he was most vouching for. We was talking about the hockey game, right? If you're going to a hockey game, then you got to be the next coach in line. And I just really struggle to think about what happened with that. Like, what happened with Andy Ludwig? Why is he not the offensive coordinator today? What does it mean for the program?
I mean, it's unavoidable that this is a bad look for the program, no matter how you slice it. You're going to get 2 stories here. One of them is saying Notre Dame was unable to or unwilling to pay Ludwig's buyout, which, admittedly, it was expensive. $2.8 million for a coordinator that has not coordinated a top 15 offense, and I don't believe ever, is objectively a pretty ridiculous amount of money to play. But that's also how college football works. In this day and age, this is a money game. If you are a blue blood program, or one that purports to be a blue blood program, wants to compete for national championship, you go out and you support your coach. From what it seems, Notre Dame was not willing to make that commitment. And Ludwig, who, it's not really clear whether he wanted to come to Notre Dame and maybe got cold feet and stayed at Utah, or he wanted to come to Notre Dame and Notre Dame wasn't able to make the commitment to get in Notre Dame. We're going to get that story, I'm sure, at a later date, maybe not this week, maybe not this month, but further down the line. But regardless of how you slice it, be it Ludwig getting cold feet after taking a public visit to campus, or maybe Notre Dame not really wanting to pay his buyout after bringing him for an interview after, an extensive process, you can't make it look like anything like a bad look for Notre Dame. And, I think they did their best to kind of salvage it. They went out and got an experienced quarterback coach in Gino Guidugli, who, has done a lot of good work in the past of Cincinnati. He's someone that Freeman trusts. He's someone that Freeman has worked with, which I think is something that when you're a young head coach, when you have so little experience like Freeman does, you want to rely on guys you can work with. And going to Parker, going to Guidugli, these are guys that Freeman had trust in and, has faith in that will run an offense. But I think if you're Notre Dame, kind of papering over the cracks is not what you wanted to do. This is a chance for Notre Dame to really make a splash, to, like you said, put some juice into this hire, make a program-changing hire, someone who brings the offense to the next generation, someone who gets the most out of Sam Hartman. And I think it's hard to say this is exactly that. It could reap solid benefits to Notre Dame. I think, one of the things, that really stands out Parker is he's going to simplify the Tommy Rees offense. I think the great slow of Tommy Rees's offense was he sometimes overthought himself. He did so much with the motions, with the, formations, that sometimes the offense got a little too complicated for its own good. And if Parker's plan is to simply, simplify that, make it more of a basic concept sort of thing, you keep the 21 personnel, keep the 11, keep the 12 personnel, but make it just less motion, less aggressiveness, less trying to cover all the deficiencies, maybe that makes the offense a little better, but I feel like you're trading one of the better offensive minds in the sport for someone who you're just kind of betting on having a high floor and not really much ceiling. It's hard to get around, this just being a worse version of Ludwig at best and potentially a very bad hire at worst.
Yeah, sorry. You go, John.
I was just going to lead into you. I know that you were a bit concerned about the optics of all of this, aside from the X's and O's and what scheme that Parker's going to run compared to what Ludwig would run. What does it mean for a program like Notre Dame that's top 5 in revenue, one of the winningest programs of all time, to seemingly not be willing to pony up the money for their guy?
Yeah, it was a really sloppy mistake. We haven't seen too many of them. Generally, Jack Swarbrick, for the most part, in his time as athletic director, it's been, consistency. Like Notre Dame athletics has been very consistent. And a lot of sports that have struggled in the past few years before Swarbrick took over, when he was first named athletic director, have improved a lot. He's avoided, some of the sloppy mistakes that Notre Dame was known for throughout the 2000s. But this certainly seems like one of them. And the fact that Ludwig was at that hockey game with Freeman in front of everyone, you only, when they knew, like bringing Ludwig to that game, that there was a pretty good chance that he was going to wind up on camera at some point on Peacock, and then obviously it circulates all over social media. You should really only be doing that if you're almost certain that that's going to be your guy as offensive coordinator. And so for something like that to happen, it just creates a weird feeling. And I know, JJ, you're talking about this as a high floor, low ceiling hire. I kind of have a gut feeling that it almost might be the opposite. I feel like this is either going to be very boom or bust for just the way I kind of feel about this one. Just the fact that you're going to wind up with an I told you so one way or the other. Either it works and the administration's like, great, we got our guy. We found this guy. We were right. We didn't make the big buyout. We didn't go up, chase the big name or whatever. We stayed away from those stereotypes. We got our guy and it works out. Or either it doesn't, and now the fan base is really irate at the athletic department and whatnot. Saying that, hey, you need to spend more money. You're not doing enough to compete with the Blue Bloods like you were talking about. And either way, no matter how it shakes out, it's not a good thing when you have that type of tension in your program. So I just think that really it's a tough situation right now for Notre Dame. Definitely has some room, certainly, for it to become a positive over time, but it's, an awkward position what Notre Dame just didn't need to find itself in.
And I kind of want to take this time to dive a bit more into the new quarterbacks coach, Gino Guidugli. I loved how Marcus Freeman was able to take him right back from Luke Fickell. He went to Wisconsin. Oh no, you're coming to Notre Dame now. He did a lot with Desmond Ridder there in Cincinnati. Ridder went from a guy who, he had the intangibles, good leadership, he could move, but at the end of the day wasn't the best pocket passer, couldn't, read a defense. And you can see here in the film just working with the quarterbacks, working with Desmond Ridder every single day to fine-tune those mechanics and make him, an NFL quarterback. Obviously with the Atlanta Falcons, didn't have the best season when he did get into it at the end of the year, but I think Desmond Ridder was a great college quarterback. That is his success is largely due to Guidugli, and I think that he can really untap a bit of what we've seen in Sam Hartman. Came back another year trying to raise his draft profile, be a little more successful, maybe be a fourth round, third round guy like Ridder was instead of late round, more like the Jack Cohn tiers, undrafted. And I think that he can tap into Sam Hartman the same way he did with Desmond Ridder, kind of work a bit on those mechanics and help him just reach that next level. He's got an NFL arm. He can throw it from sideline to sideline. He can make those tough throws, throw our guys open. I know you were talking about this last night, 4:30 a.m. in the studio, about how are these receivers going to step up? And the answer might be Sam Hartman. He might be the guy who makes them step up by making those tough throws with his arm strength. I think Guidugli is going to be a critical part of this offense, regardless of what Parker does going forward.
If I can give a prediction, I think we're going to see a lot of RPO-style stuff from Parker because, for one, it's something that he has been on record about saying he likes to do. And if you're Notre Dame looking at the offense next year, you have a weird dichotomy you need to figure out in the sense that you have an all-ACC quarterback, someone who theoretically could compete from the Heisman in the right offense, but you don't have a lot of proven experience at receivers, and you have a really good running back room. So you need to try to figure out how to get the most out of your, all-pro quarterback while also not minimizing your running backs and also trying to cover up for the fact that you don't really have any proven receivers. It's a weird balance of stuff that for Notre Dame, you kind of have to find the perfect scheme to make it all work perfectly. And, if you're Notre Dame and you want to compete with the USCs of the world, where you have an offensive juggernaut and Caleb Williams and wide receivers all over the gazoo and an offense that's going to score 50 points, you need to be exactly right with how you kind of, mix and match your pace and your tempo and your personnel. And that's something, if you're Parker, I think the RPO offense is kind of the way to go with that because it's, it's enough of a pro-style concept that you can pitch to Hartman like this is NFL stuff, this is what you came here for, this is what you're going to see in the league. And it's also enough of trying to make the personnel work where you're not trying to force the ball to receivers who aren't ready to have the ball forced to them. You're not giving the ball to the running backs who are probably one of the deepest stables in the country, and you're letting your offense, who with Joe Alt and Blake Fisher, two of the most mobile tackles in the country, players that can move and really play the tackle position in a way that not many players can play. You're allowing them to get into space and do some creative stuff. So I think that would kind of build off Tommy Rees's element of play calling and play design, where he liked to kind of be a mad scientist with how he ran these screens and these end arounds and all this other concept stuff that he liked to do. He got a lot of praise in the NFL for it, but I think the ultimate theme for Notre Dame was that for Notre Dame last year there was just too much complication. And if you're Notre Dame, you need to get rid of that next year if you want to make sure the offense, if it's going to stay the same offense, be as simple as possible.
Yeah, and with Guidugli, I almost feel like Guidugli is to Gerad Parker what Tommy Rees was to Marcus Freeman last year. All indications were that if Rees had left last offseason instead of this year, that Freeman probably wouldn't have been promoted as head coach. So I wonder if the fact that Guidugli, someone who has experience working with a great quarterback in Desmond Ridder, who's proven his mettle at Cincinnati, someone who Freeman knows he can work with and knows he can trust, makes him a little bit more comfortable promoting someone with Parker rather than trying to go out and get a splashier name.
And this might be a bit of a hot take, and I might get excommunicated from NDTV for saying this, but was Brian Kelly actually right?
No, 100%.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't even think that's a hot take at this point.
yeah, one of the big things that Brian Kelly said in his interview, leaving Notre Dame, going to LSU, was that it's hard to win at Notre Dame with all the restrictions they have in place. That they're not committed fully to winning like a program like LSU is. They're not willing to put in the money. They have too many restrictions. And, I can understand the principle of not wanting to get your hands dirty with NIL. That's, the Wild West out there right now, little crazy. Brian Kelly's out here doing photo shoots, trying to get his guys deals with Chili's and Applebee's, but Notre Dame doesn't want to deal with that. I also get your academic standards. Notre Dame, one of the best institutions in the world, top 20. They don't want to sacrifice that for their football program. You see it with teams like Michigan, Stanford. They're going to adhere to strict academic principles. But I don't think there's any sort of moral high ground you can stand on to argue that it's not the right move to spend more money on your football program. For a team that ranks consistently the top 5 in revenue generated from football, up there with Texas, Ohio State, Michigan, there's no reason that you can't, invest a bit of that into staying relevant and staying one of the top teams in the country that can continue bringing in some of the top talent. It's a recruiting game these days. You don't see guys who are staying here for 4 years, real coaches guys, lunch pail workers. It's the top players in the country, and you're going to need to get a guy, hopefully like CJ Carr can be a top quarterback that can push the needle for you, make you contender. And I just don't see us doing that if we're not committed to being, putting everything we can into it, all of our resources, to get the best coaches, to have the best facilities, and to spend money on scouting.
Yeah, and there's a great quote from Andy Staples of The Athletic where he says, "There's no reason you can't have a great football team and a kick-ass children's hospital." It's the same for Notre Dame with the academics. I don't know why there's an aversion to the idea that you can't both have a good football team as well as a great academic standard. Notre Dame was a school that, in large part, became the vaunted force in academia it was today because so many people knew the football team and so people grew up wanting to go to Notre Dame because they watched the gold helmets on their TV every Saturday. I don't really know where the idea came from that you can't combine academics with football, and Notre Dame seemingly is not willing to make the jump to one way or the other. And once said, you talk about how much Brian Kelly left in a way that was kind of annoying, but the points he made about being able to win at LSU versus being able to win at Notre Dame, it's a different environment. And if you're Brian Kelly and you want to win a national championship, you want to compete with the Alabamas of the world, you go to LSU to do that. And I don't think it's even close to wrong his assessment that Notre Dame in its present state is not willing to commit itself to be the elite level program. Whether that's good for the school or bad for the school, that's a different topic. But I don't think it's even a question at this point that Brian Kelly was absolutely correct in his assessment that Notre Dame and LSU play two different sports.
Mm-hmm. I think that the Parker hire going to be great for the continuity. You lost your head coach, winning is a program history. Then you lost your offensive coordinator. It's going to be nice just to have that stability and experience. Just what you need in a good relationship, right, guys? You want stability, someone you can trust, and experience. And we're going to throw it now to a segment with the iconic Morrissey Trio as they look into Notre Dame's campus feelings on Valentine's Day, and if there's a better date out there than Sam Hartman himself.
Happy Valentine's Day to all of our millions of viewers at home. We hope you enjoyed it. We spent our Valentine's Day with our dates at Yastrzemski's, The Basement, Yaz's, and we asked everyone if you could choose one athlete to be your Valentine, who would it be? Anything to add, Eric?
That's it. We'll see you guys next time.
Interesting take.
I'm with the world-renowned host here today, Ryan Nam.
Sean Mullery, head waiter, Yastrzemski's.
I'm here with my two very special dates. This is David Reinhardt. This is Colin. They both have girlfriends. I do not, but they accompanying me today.
I'm here with Joe.
I'm here with my third date, the pride of Albuquerque, New Mexico, Nick Morales.
Hi, Owen. Happy Valentine's Day to you. I hope you had a great Valentine's Day. How has your Valentine's Day been today?
Okay,
well, it's been wonderful. I haven't done much. Okay, but that's.
Oh, if you could have the Valentine of any professional athlete, who would it be? Or, college athlete, professional athlete, any athlete, who would it be?
That's a hard question.
Okay.
Do they have to be alive?
Testing.
I'm not really sure. He already knows, Alan. You have someone on your mind, you just don't want to say it. Take your pick.
Jimmy Garoppolo.
De'Aaron Fox.
I have to go with Joel Embiid, I think.
Oh.
Probably Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow?
We're going to go with Molly Seidel. Molly Siddell. She went here. She went to Notre Dame. She was a track and cross country athlete.
Oh, there you go. That's Ryan Nom, folks.
Come on.
I'd have to say Livy Dunn.
You know, this might be a little bit of a hot take.
Why is that? Because he's the GOAT.
Page backers.
But I'm from the Dallas area. I love my Cowboys.
Jason Tatum. He's cold.
So I think it would be cool to have a Valentine with Dak Prescott. You
Dak
know,
Prescott.
Me and the big homie, we go.
She's just got such a great personality. And obviously, you know, it's just a dream for me.
He could just caress me in his arms so gently.
Oh, yeah, bro. If you can't share Valentines with the homies, then what's it for?
He's the most sexy man in the NFL.
He is pretty handsome. I agree with you on that.
I love basketball, and she's awesome at basketball.
It's an honest take.
Done.
It may be JPW, but a sophomore still has to come in and reign court. So, as a very popular segment we did in the fall of College Football Courtroom, we decided to bring that to the association. It's the NBA Courtroom. I'm Honorable Jacob Irons. We are so happy to have you with us, presiding over these juniors of fabulous John Bailey and JJ Post. If you have not known, they've battled out a couple times before. Hello, sir. Hello, guys. Are we ready to rock and roll?
Always.
Your Honor.
All right. So, I like the honorable say. All right, let's start things off. Last week, the Nets blew everything up, trading away some of their big three members. So now this is the question. Is it the biggest blow-up in NBA history? We'll start with you, John.
I'm just going to be blunt. It's obviously, yes, there's nothing that can really compare to that. We have 3 top 15 players, 2 top 10, arguably 2 top 5. Kevin Durant's toe is going to be like the villain in Brooklyn for years and years to come for what happened in that Milwaukee series, but that's no fun. Being an NBA historian, I like to go back a little bit and look at some of the other failures throughout history. We think about the Lakers in the 60s, when you not only had Wilt Chamberlain, Elgin Baylor, and Jerry West, all the tail end of their prime, couldn't win a championship until 1972 when you had Gail Goodrich as your second best player. Wilt, Elgin, their knees were shot, and it was just Jerry and Gail carrying them to the one championship they won as a core. Then you have the 2000s Mavericks. You had Nash and Dirk together, split them up, gave up on Nash because they didn't want to pay him. And then, of course, you have 2007. 67 wins, 1 seed, you lose in 6 to the I Believe Warriors, Baron Davis, and it's just an embarrassment. It wasn't until Dirk was able to win it all in 2011 that the narrative finally seeded that he was a choke artist. And then we have, because I love to hate on Brooklyn because they have made nothing but stupid decisions since moving to Brooklyn. That
was the original stupid decision for what it's worth.
The original stupid decision.
I think that's something you both can agree on.
For Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, and Jason Terry. I don't think there's a trade in NBA history that's as bad as that or as detrimental. You know, they bought in completely, all to lose to LeBron James and the Miami Heat in Game 5 of the second round in just a miserable fashion right here. No play, just completely clamped up, and here you see LeBron getting on the scorer's table to finally celebrate, taking down big bad Boston with Garnett and Pierce. And he'll take condolences. It's in Brooklyn, but he still finally beat those guys. That's all he needs. It's just, after that season, Paul Pierce left, and they were just never the same. You had a core of all NBA players, Darren Williams, Joe Johnson. You had, young Brook Lopez when he was still like a paint beast inside, not like the, 3-and-D Brook Lopez we have today. Who ever thought that's his role would be? You still had Andre Kirilenko, lockdown defender, to go with Garnett and Pierce, who coming off very recently a championship. And they did absolutely nothing with it. They had to trade 3 first-round picks when they were able in dealing with the Boston Celtics. And those picks, they just ended up being Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, right?
We're done. Order in my court. My soliloquy. I allowed them way longer this time around than College Football Courtroom. College Football Courtroom, I kept them quick.
Jimbo Fisher is bad at his job.
JPW makes sure I get everyone equal airtime.
Your Honor, moral of the story, do not trust Danny Ainge. And the Minnesota
Never make a trade with Danny Ainge.
Minnesota Timberwolves screwed up with Gobert again this offseason.
All right, now let's get it to JJ. JJ,
John brings up some important context in talking about some of the historical NBA dynasties and the failures of those dynasties, but let the record show in this great court that I am a Knicks fan from New Jersey, and I could give less of a care about what the context says. The Knicks are a failure, they're an organization of failure, and they've been making failure decisions ever since they left the great state of New Jersey. Now, we see here, Kevin Durant, a top player. No question, the players they had on that roster were, some of the best in the NBA. You look at Kyrie, Harden, Durant. The scary hour Nets were just that, very scary, but just as quickly they turned into the sleepy hour Nets because that team was doomed from the start because of it was nap time. Anyone who's seen the Sleepy Time Bear on Twitter knows exactly what I'm talking about. That was the Nets of last year's because the chemistry it was always doomed from the start. You brought in 3 players who are not known for being especially team-oriented guys. Kevin Durant made it work with the Warriors, but that was so ridiculous that you couldn't not fail. And you look at Harden, Kyrie, Durant. These are guys that all are stars, and when you put 3 stars in one court, we were talking about this last night. You talked about what we were talking about in the studio at 4:30 a.m. John was cutting highlights. I had a paper due. This was 4:30 in the morning. This was far from rash discussion, but we came to the conclusion that there is a balance of stars you need to have on the court at once, and that balance is 2, and you build around that. The Nets tilted that balance too much. They put 3 on the court because when you put 3 stars on the court, that's when it becomes trouble to feed the ball. You look at how some of these other NBA teams in present day have built their squads. The Celtics, for example, they've got Tatum. That's their guy. They got Jaylen Brown, who's a solid 2 guy. Then around that core, they get Marcus Smart, very good defender. Malcolm Brogdon, highly underrated player. They build the team around their 2, their pairing, and that's how teams, I think the best teams these days, have built themselves. And I think the Nets, they got too greedy. They tried to just put too many star names on the floor at once. It completely fell apart. And the better question we should ask is which Nets team was more of a failure, the original Big 3 that failed or this Big 3? And the underlying message is the Nets are a failure.
Breach.
I feel bad for the Nets, man.
You shouldn't.
There's some pent-up tension about leaving Jersey right there. A lot of pent-up tension.
Go Knicks.
However, I am all in favor of JJ. I think the Nets just screwed this up. I think they really did. I think it might be the biggest bust. You can't put 3 hotheads together at this current moment. I really do. It's so bad. However, let's keep moving on. Durant and the Suns. If you haven't heard, Durant's in lovely Phoenix, baby. He's taking it down in Scottsdale with the Phoenix Suns. But now, with that move, is he now and the Suns potentially being a favorite to win it all?
They're up there for sure. I mean, you look at, we talk about pure talent. Kevin Durant, on his day, and that day is most days, is a top 5 player in the league, and that's not even close. He's a guy that is now going to play off Chris Paul, one of the greatest creators of our generation in terms of playing the point guard position and being a shot creator at that point guard position. It's a team that is well-rounded. It's a team that was built, I think this is the most important part, that was built to destroy the Denver Nuggets, the current 1 seed in the West, the team that all regular season is ripping things up. They probably are going to have a deserved 3-time MVP in Nikola Jokic directing the show at center. But the one thing Nuggets can't do, it is defend the mid-range. That is the weak spot, the chink in the armor, so to speak. And the Suns have built a team that is designed to nail that weak spot. That mid-range, you look at Durant, you look at Paul, you look at Booker. These are guys that are going to destroy the Nuggets when they can't isolate Jokic in the paint and when they can't close out the mid-range. The Suns are going to beat them hard in that spot. And you're the Suns. That's your probably, I'd say, in a stacked West, your number 1 competitor for the Western Conference title. There's going to be other competitors for sure. You can't count the Warriors. You can't count the Lakers. And those are the teams that aren't even really
Lakers.
And those teams that aren't even in the playoffs right now. So once again, I'm just saying that's how stacked the West is. That a team like the Lakers that have so much talent aren't even it's a joke to consider the Lakers a contender for the West. And that is a team that has LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So that goes to show how deep the West is. But to that point, the Nuggets are, I'd say, the number 1 competitor, and the Suns have built a team that is perfectly designed to obliterate them.
All
now, I got one more thing. I'll say. It's unfair to say they are the favorites, though, because they have a 2-year window to win the title. If they don't, that would be pretty rational based on, statistics. So they shouldn't be destroyed like the Nets were if they don't make the most of a 2-year window when the Nets had 5.
Okay, let's go to John.
So in order to make a move like this that completely sacrifices your future, trading away all of your future picks, it has to be, with knowing that you are now the favorite to win a championship. We think about those Lakers. When they traded for Anthony Davis, they gave up all their young players, all their future picks, and right now it might be coming to bite them in the behind a bit with them potentially having a lottery pick that could turn into Victor Wembanyama or one of the great players in this class going right to New Orleans instead of Los Angeles. But they won a championship. So at the end of the day, that's all that matters. They became the favorites and they got it done. I think the exact same thing applies here in Phoenix. They were smart. They weren't like, I'll hate on Minnesota again for it. When you completely mortgage your future for Rudy Gobert, that's not going to win you a championship. That's not going to mesh. Kevin Durant is a pantheon guy, top 10, top 15 player of all time. How many guys like that get traded? Moses Malone, Shaq, that's about it. Those guys just don't get moved. And to do so for 3 picks, and what I think is, arguably giving up less assets than what you did for Gobert, it's just a no-brainer for me. You lost Mikal Bridges
here we
and
go.
Johnson,
All right.
but those guys are just basically Kevin Durant, but not as good. So
You'll take Kevin Durant over Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson, and that's with no disrespect to those players. It's Kevin Durant.
They are the best pick-and-roll ball-handling team of all time.
All right.
Range, They'll have easy dunks all the time.
Hey, order in this court. Order in this court. This is like, come on. We're just running way over time. My producer is like yelling in my ear. I'm letting them go. It's JPW.
We somehow spent 2 minutes on the Lakers still.
They got nothing to move. However, I am in favor. I don't think it's going to be a bust here if at this current moment if they don't win the championship. So we'll keep it moving, though. The Knicks are led by Julius Randle and have a commanding presence in the East at the current moment, I think. We'll see.
Oh, that.
That's
doing some work.
A little like...
They're 32-27.
Well, yeah, we'll take it there.
Look at the Hawks struggling.
Is Randle a superstar?
He's an all-star. I think that's a fair assessment. He's playing at the moment like a top 30 player in the league. That's, I think that's easily where I'd put Randle. But superstar might be pushing it a little bit. You look at a team where Jalen Brunson's scoring 30-plus a night, and that's kind of their main guy. Randle's doing a fantastic job in adapting kind of a role with someone who's filling the stat sheet. He's a scorer. He does some work on the rebounds. He's not as bad defensively as he's been in the past, and that's big for the Knicks, who are not built to be a defensive team. But I think superstar's still going a little too far. I think he's not even I would not even say he's the most important player on the Knicks, at least as a Knicks fan myself. I'd say Brunson has been far more important to the Knicks revitalizing this season. I think, you look down the line, Randle is going to be a very important player for this team, but I think Brunson is the more important player, and by that metric alone, he can't be considered a superstar. All credit to him, though.
John, let's go with you.
Yeah, I think we've agreed a lot today. This is probably the most cordial courtroom we've had.
I know. I have no fight to bring.
Right? Mm-hmm. And I love Julius Randle. Don't get me wrong. His comeback has been so impressive. I love all the Lakers cast-offs, right? Ingram, Lonzo, and Julius Randle's no exception. To guide the Knicks to the first playoff berth in years was great for the city, and it's good for the NBA when the Knicks are good. He's had a remarkable turnaround, and he's a great player. Like you said, deserved an all-star, but a superstar, you got to be the guy on a contending team to be a superstar, and he's just not that, especially when Jalen Brunson is the better player on the team. He really can do it all. He can push the pace and get the Knicks running on the break. Sometimes they tend to stagnate, but he's just explosive in transition. He's a great shooter. He can create his own shot. He's a sniper off the dribble and just great at being able to spread the defense out, get him leaning a little bit. Here, he just steps back, hits the shot, buckets. No problem to take the lead there in overtime against Charlotte. And then, of course, he's got that, dribble moves too. He breaks down Donovan Mitchell, goes inside, and hits the floater over Gerad Allen, one of the best defenders in the league. He really can do it all, and I know Mark Cuban and the Dallas Mavericks are kicking themselves for letting that guy go.
Consensus. He's an all-star, not a superstar. Very cordial courtroom today. I had no fight. My biggest time was the clock. I lost control of the clock today. Well, we all have our expertise, and today mine wasn't. However, let's keep it moving. I was able to break down everything you need to know heading into March with college basketball alongside Kieran Cantwell. We're breaking it all down. College basketball that you need to know.
With Selection Sunday only a month away, that means the final rankings are starting to take form. And so, to take you through it, let's go through the AP Top 10 that is having some new faces to it, with Blue Bloods, Duke, UNC, and even Kentucky falling off the lines. We'll have to break it down on who's the top in the AP.
Heading into Week 15, the Alabama Crimson Tide maintained the #1 spot in the rankings. Led by stud freshman forward Brandon Miller, the Crimson Tide won their first 12 games of SEC play. On Wednesday night, Alabama traveled to Knoxville to take on the 10th-ranked Tennessee Volunteers. With 5 players scoring at least 9 points, the Volunteers prevailed at home, handing the Crimson Tide their first conference loss of the season by a score of 68-59. A mid-major out of the American Conference resides at #2 in the AP poll. All-American caliber guard Marcus Sasser and the Houston Cougars are hunting for their first 1 seed
since the 1983 NCAA tournament, and it may be inevitable at this point. Sitting at 11-1 in the conference, the Cougars expect to keep cruising through the American Athletic behind elite defense and rebounding. Now turning to the Hoosier State, the Purdue Boilermakers sit atop the Big Ten with a 12-3 conference record, enough for them to land at a third in the rankings. If you haven't seen Zach Edey play yet, you need to familiarize yourself with this 7-foot talent. Averaging 22 points, 13 rebounds, and 2 blocks, Edey has completely separated himself in the National Player of the Year award race. Opposing teams have no choice but to double team him down low, but the Boilermakers have a quality array of playmakers surrounding their Canadian big man. Stay tuned because Purdue will be must-see TV in March. The Big 12 is arguably the toughest conference in men's college basketball this season, and the rankings reflect that statement with Kansas at 5, Texas at 6, Baylor at 9. The blockbuster of the weekend has Baylor heading to Lawrence to face Kansas for a share of first place in the league standings. In a battle of the previous 2 national champions, Jalen Wilson will lead the Jayhawks against the Bears' explosive trio of Keontae George, Adam Flagler, and LJ Cryer. Rounding out the top 10 is UCLA at 4, Virginia at 7, and Arizona at 8. With not one team jumping off the page just yet, that could make March the most unpredictable in recent memory. So, grab your popcorn. It's sure going to be one to watch. For Shamrock Sports, I'm Jacob Irons. Now, let's send it back to the desk.
Thanks so much, Jake, for showing us around college basketball as we approach my most favorite time of the year, March Madness. But as college basketball is, starting to creep towards its end, we have opening day today for the Irish, Notre Dame baseball. Currently 3-0. They are losing to Lipscomb. So
we didn't need to say who was winning or losing. We could have just gone with 3-0.
But I want to be informative for the people. We're a watchdog organization.
The people don't need to know how this team looks.
It just makes the victory that much sweeter.
So maybe we should
something like that.
Skip college baseball for now and move on to the MLB. Big news in Major League Baseball with Rob Manfred, beloved commissioner Rob Manfred, announcing several new changes to the rules. And I just have I feel like this might be the day baseball died, right? You think of American Pie, the song. This will be the day baseball died. What do you guys think about that? How are we feeling? Is this really the death of baseball as we know it?
I'll give Manfred one thing. The pitch clock, I don't like it, but you can make an argument for it. You could say that one of the things that's holding people back from watching baseball is the length of the games. Theoretically, the pitch clock, helps to move the games along. And again, I don't agree with it, but I think that one, you can give a legitimate case for it. The rest of them, what are we doing here? The ghost runner on second base in extra innings? You're not a real baseball fan unless you've watched your team lose in the 17th inning on a walk-off bloop single to right field. Those are the moments that make unfortunate fans. And, if you're, a baseball fan, you know those moments. And, if you're a baseball fan, I think you're looking at these rules Manfred put into place, and you're wondering, what are we doing here? The pitch clock, you see here, it's going to be like, I'll be honest, I don't actually know what the full enforcement rules are going to be like, but it's
Calling them out.
Yeah. It doesn't make sense in the sense that, you're just going to have umpires who already get a lot of flack for having a difficult job. They're going to now have to enforce a clock in addition to all the stuff that people already hate on them for. Not only do I think it's an odd change, I just don't think it's going to work. I don't think that's something that you can just make umpires do in the moment and figure it out. But, I'll pass it off. I'm sure we're going to have a lot of thoughts on this. Andrew?
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of more focused so far with this rule and all the rules. You can debate whether or not they're good rules. But the bottom line is they're here. They're going to stay for at least 2023, maybe some of them longer. Obviously, the Ghost Runner is permanent, at least, for the foreseeable future. But I'm more concerned about who this is going to affect, what players stand to benefit, and what players are going to be hurt by these rules. And I think when you're talking about the pitch clock, there are a lot of pitchers. I know the example we showed was a hitter getting punched out. But I feel like for hitters, it's going to be less of an adjustment than for pitchers just because you got to go through signs and all that stuff, of course. You have shaking off catchers, that sort of stuff. Obviously, the cat and mouse game with runners on base is totally different, and by far the rule of these, I actually not as negative as you guys are on most of the rules. The 2 pickoff limit rule is the one I hate the most. I just think I understand the incentive to bring stolen bases, and I like stolen bases, but I just think it's too drastic. I think it's going to be too severe on punishing pitchers. Maybe some sort of limit could have been put in place and made it fair, but I think 2 is just way too few. But really, with pitchers who throw slow, I feel like it's going to be a big adjustment for them early in the season because you're going to have guys rushing pitches, and that's going to lead to more mistakes over the heart of the plate and that sort of stuff. So in that sense, it's going to create more offense, but it's going to be like sloppy offense, Everyone likes seeing home runs, but you like it when your hitter does something really good, not necessarily when the pitcher just serves up an absolute meatball that gets crushed 450 feet. So it's going to create more offense, but is it going to be the type of offense that fans like to see? I'm a little less certain about that.
Yeah, we can see right now what is known as the shift, right? When the defense moves around so that they can best be in position to field the ball from wherever the hitter's tendencies usually take them. Usually you can bring the third baseman, the shortstop, to the right side of the field if they usually hit it to the right side. Just a little breakdown for showing on my baseball knowledge. But Andrew, I know you're a big baseball guy, great knowledge of the game. Tell us a bit more about how eliminating the shift and this defensive advantage is going to actually end up hurting the hitters as well.
Well, yeah, we've talked about how being a Philly fan, whatever, we saw the clip there with Ryan Howard. Phillies have had some big left-handed sluggers in recent years. Obviously, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber. In fact, four players in baseball last year who estimated to lose at least 15 hits in the shift, and Kyle Schwarber was one of those four, as was Yordan Alvarez, who went against Schwarber in the World Series. Corey Seager of the Texas Rangers lost a league-leading 25 hits to shifts. So actually, while shifts definitely will hurt hitters in some instances, I think for those big lefty sluggers, they're really going to stand to benefit because you can't have that second baseman in shallow right field anymore. There will still be some shifting, of course. I'm sure with a big lefty hitter like a Schwarber or an Alvarez or a Seager, you'll see the second baseman over, the shortstop will be just behind the bag, and the third baseman will be halfway between second and third base. So there will be some shifting, but it's not going to be nearly as drastic. And for those big lefties who were sometimes tempted to bunt and whatnot, they're going to be swinging for the fences a lot more this season. So it's going to be interesting to combine that with the potential mistakes over the heart of the plate with the pitch clock. I think there's going to be a lot of home runs this year, so it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, a quick note on the shift real quick before we move on. I think one of the impacts not talked about is this is going to really hurt small market teams because the idea of using analytics, using forward-thinking strategy has kind of been the hallmark of the no offense, the Tampa Bay Rays, the Oakland A's of the world, team that don't have the financial capabilities to really go out and get the top players. So I think if you are a Rays now, you're thinking like, okay, so we can't compete financially with the Yankees or the Mets or all these other top teams, and now we can't use cutting-edge strategy to get an edge. All the principles of Moneyball, like you said, that kind of became like the underdog stories of the game. The shift totally undercuts that because it's telling teams if you create innovation to get ahead of the curve, you're not going to be valued. That's something that we don't want. We want the big teams to win. We don't want the smart teams to win. And I think that's just something that is really unfortunate for the game of baseball, where the underdog stories are often quite fun. One more thing, another rule that got pitched was the universal designated hitter. Another one where I'd say it falls in the category of I understand it, I get why they want to do it, I just don't necessarily like it. I think, once again, if you want to pitch the sport to a neutral viewer, the idea of pitchers who are distinctly worse at hitting than all the regular hitters having to hit, it doesn't really make sense. It is annoying to watch. If you are a neutral viewer going to a ball game and seeing a pitcher have to come to the plate where one time out of town, it's probably not even going to get the ball in play. But there are moments like, we're going to see a highlight in a minute, the Bartolo home run. This was, as a Mets fan, one of, unironically, the funniest moments in my fandom. Just seeing Bartolo, who had 40 years of his life, and 20 of which were spent playing, had never hit a home run. When he jacked that one to left field at Petco Park, the crowd went nuts. It was a moment that really around the league echoed. It was a moment that it wasn't just Mets fans. It was like, holy crap, Bartolo went yard, and that was something everyone took notice of. So yeah, it's a small moment. It's a moment that you don't get a lot of, but when it does happen, it's special, and I think you are being robbed of those special moments when you get rid of something like the pitchers hitting. It's something that I get why you want to appeal to the neutral fan. I get you want to make the game a little more viewable, but those moments that make the diehard fans so happy, like the Bartolo home run, you lose those when you lose the designated, when you put in the designated hitter rule.
Yeah, you talk about the story of baseball. I think it's just such a romantic sport, really. There's a reason why all the best stories in sports are about baseball. And I'm going to end this segment just by breaking down one of my favorite stories. It's the 1988 World Series, right? Kirk Gibson, he's hurt. He's hobbling out of the dugout. He's got to take his time in between pitches, and all of a sudden, finally gets a good crack of the bat on the ball. It soars deep into right field. There's a little anticipation. It's not no doubter. Will it clear the fence? And then it does. And just like that, able to win the game. You had Vin Scully on the call. The great, the late Vin Scully. She is gone. And I just think with a call like that and a story like that, you just can't script it any better. And how can you not be romantic about a moment like that? How can you not be romantic about baseball? And really, I think these changes going to hurt the game and its beauty more than anything else.
You're not romantic about Kirk Gibson being punched out for taking 10 seconds to walk to the batter's box?
No.
I'm sure there's some fans out there who might be a little more happy with that ending.
If you're an A's fan, you're romantic
if you're a fan of the long tortured Oakland A's, you're probably a little more happy with the alternate universe we just described. But for those of you who like getting goosebumps listening to Vin Scully highlights, very much not.
And now we'll take it back from the major leagues to something closer on campus, as Thursday marked the first day of our annual Bengal Bouts boxing tournament. Our very own Kieran Cantwell went behind the scenes to see what goes on in the training and preparation for Bengal Bouts.
Bengal Bouts is Notre Dame's annual boxing tournament. This will be our 93rd season. It was started by Newt Rockne way back in the day as a way to keep football players in shape. But as the years have passed, regular students have gotten involved. It's moved away from football and it's kind of become its own sport in a way.
One of the best things about Bengal Bouts and the Notre Dame Boxing Club, men's boxing club, is its dual mission. So obviously there's the whole learning to box and then competing, but also what we're really here for is to raise money for the Holy Cross missions in Bangladesh. We try to raise as much money as possible. Last year I believe we raised over $200,000. So we're able to provide schooling and then room and board for all of these students as well, who otherwise would have no really other educational options. So I'm very blessed and proud to be a part of this club for that reason. Just to know that all of my hard work is building towards something besides just the benefits that I gain from it.
A lot of people might talk about joining Bengal Bouts for the workout, and our workouts are really tough. We're pretty notorious for having great workouts, but I think Bengal Bouts is so much more than that. Personally, I always wanted to compete in boxing and combat sports my whole life, so it's really been a dream come true for me. But maybe someone without the same background and interest as me, to get an opportunity to learn a new skill, you need to compete in front of your friends, classmates, family in many cases, and you also get in great shape, and you get the fulfillment of raising money for a much higher cause.
I really feel like I've grown a lot physically, but like the real growth has been very mental. I used to be so terrified. Quite frankly, coming to practices, I kind of hide into the corner. Now I just feel like a lot more confident in myself, and I think that's really carried with me in all aspects of my life. Just being able to take myself so far out of my comfort zone by joining the club in the first place, and then being able to see the growth and progression and find success in it has given me that confidence to know that I can do the same thing really in anything that I apply myself to.
Notre Dame boxing has given me so much over the last 4 years. Joining as a freshman, honestly I don't know what I would have done otherwise, to now being able to be a senior and coaching guys from my dorm, my teammates, my friends. It's really been a dream come true for me.
That guy next to me who I can see is working hard, that makes me want to work harder too. So really the effort level here is so high, and I'm grateful to be a part of it, because then that just like forces me to raise my personal bar to match that of the club, and I'm all the better for it.
We've got a couple hundred guys that have been working super hard over the last 4 or 5 months, putting a lot of work, taught a lot of skill, developed a lot of great boxers, and it's going to be a great show for all 4 nights of the tournament. So every practice we break down at the end with 2 words in Bangla, which is the language of Bangladesh. The first one stands for physical strength, it's Shakti, and the second one stands for courage, more on the mental side, and Shahosh. So at the end of every practice, the captains say Shakti and the members of the club say Shahosh, and that's how we break down the end of every practice every day.
Shakti on 3, 1, 2, 3. Shakti! Shahosh!
As welcome you back here, so happy to have you with us. With it being JPW weekend, we thought there's no better way to finish out our Super Edition show than with some trivia. So we have junior-specific trivia. We have our entire panelists back, and now the over-under was set at 1 between them all to see if they would get some. However, I don't know. Me and Ryan Murphy, who's our lovely scoreboard operator, did not do so hot when we did it ourselves, so we're a little worried. So,
Wonderful.
What did you get?
I got 1.
What's the
No! I got 1.
So our bar is Notre Dame's foremost expert on random stuff, and he got 1.
I got
Wonderful.
1. Yes, this is my
there
Notre
gonna be a
Dame
curve on
random
this?
stuff.
Yeah, the
What's the chance to determine observer or
Let's
Andy
get us going. Let's get us started. Notre Dame has had 7 players win a Heisman. Of those 7, how many won it during their junior year? A0, B2, or C3?
Wow.
All right.
I know the answer to this
let's go through
one.
them.
I don't know.
All right,
I
we'll
can't tell
start
if you're
with
fooling me.
McGuinness?
Are we flipping?
Yep. All right. Well, no, not all of you. We're going to go. All right, McGuinness?
I was thinking 2 before you even listed the options.
Okay.
B.
Oh, my God.
Oh, make it 3. Big baller brand.
All incorrect.
Yeah.
It is 0. None of them have won it.
Yeah, we're
in
not
their
getting anyone.
junior
We're not getting a single one. We're not
And
getting a
now
single one.
let's keep it moving here. And now, the phrase "win one for the Gipper" was later used as a political slogan by Ronald Reagan, who in 1940 portrayed Gip in Newt Rockne All-American and was often referred to as the Gipper. Now, true or false? Gip died several weeks after finishing his junior All-American season. True or false? And mind you, this is the question that we thought you could get because it's only a 50-50 shot.
Well, the last one was 33%. We blew that one.
Yes, you did. You all took, you guys could have easily went. All right, let's go with Andrew again. True. True?
Wow, we're in agreement again.
Oh, my God. It is all false. Gip died several weeks after finishing his senior All-American season.
Hey,
we're off to, let's show the scoreboard for the people. It's 0-0 for everybody. We're really doing some.
Hey, when we're seniors next year, we're going to be fantastic, though.
Yeah,
Like,
senior
we're
year.
getting this all
Senior
right
year.
next year.
All right, but now let's keep moving. In real life, Rudy Rudiger transferred from Notre Dame during his junior year, joining the
Solidarity.
scout team.
True. Final answer.
Joining the scout team. However, he had one other meaningful athletic accomplishment during his junior year. What was it? Once again, I would like to preface, I did not make these questions. This is all Jake Miller. These questions were in a lock and key box. If parents are here for JPW and you are alumni and you know this, please, we would love to have you at this moment come in because we think we might need a little help for our panelists.
You know, I like my logic on this one. Rudy, clearly a great athlete.
Let's go, Andrew.
He seems fast to me. He's
Track
not
and
that
field
big.
championship sort of thing. All right.
I don't know how
Walking the holy hike.
Oh, okay.
5'0". He'll be great for bookstore basketball. Champion.
Wow. Our line is looking really good
I'm
right now.
genuinely interested. What is the right answer?
The correct answer is going to the title round in Bengal bouts. Thank you, Kieran, for that awesome segment
that in the movie?
before.
No.
It is not in the movie. This is some true. He did finish runner-up. He won it during his senior year.
We read a biography on the guy.
All right, now let's keep it moving along to question number 4. We're at a 3-way tie with 0 points, so
it's anyone's game.
Anyone's game at this moment.
FrankBeamer.gif.
Are we ready? A popular theory suggests that there are many references to Notre Dame in a popular animated movie. I'll read that again. A popular theory suggests that there are many references to a Notre Dame in a popular animated movie. One of these references refers to a notorious former Notre Dame professor who taught junior-level chemistry courses. Which movie features these references?
This is animated?
What?
I don't know if I can name an animated movie.
I'll give you a hint.
Oh, I don't need one.
It's under DreamWorks. I'll help you.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
It's not Disney.
It's DreamWorks. What does DreamWorks even do? It's a college movie.
We're going to the tiebreaker, I think. All right, let's hear. You're going past. No, that's not an option.
Phineas and Ferb the movie.
I said no Disney.
I had already started Sharpie.
John got it. There we go.
Best DreamWorks movie.
Shrek. Oh my gosh, we got a point.
This hurts more than the Jordan Alvarez.
Was the logic just because it was the best DreamWorks movie?
The rest of the table's got nothing. All right.
Wait, what's the story? Who was the professor?
I don't know. Jake wrote these.
Jake Miller. What are
Jake Miller wrote these. I'm just asking the questions. I came in to host. All right. Now let's go to number 5. And if anyone gets this, I'm going to be.
I bet you didn't expect me to get Shrek, though.
I didn't expect. No.
Did you expect to get Shrek?
I was thinking.
All right.
I believe
Father Ted Hesburgh enjoyed a long run as Notre Dame president, pioneer for civil rights, and a position as the national face of American Catholicism. What happened to Father Ted after his junior year here at Notre Dame?
Didn't you guys watch the Moreau-Hesburgh film?
Yes,
I didn't take Moreau.
Oh, yeah. I did not
AJ,
watch
is it transfer?
What did Father Ted
I have a bulletproof answer.
Can this be based off the show about Father Ted in Ireland?
All right, here we go. Andrew,
Tell me I'm wrong.
you became a.
Tell me I'm wrong. You didn't tell me that.
Next.
He did the Hesburgh challenge. Leave it up to interpretation what that means.
He joined the priesthood.
That one I should have put.
Can I give it to
I want a half at least.
It's going to be the seminary, isn't
John
it?
wins, but he sent to study at Pontifical Gregorian University in Rome, where he received his bachelor's degree. He never received a degree from Notre Dame.
So I actually was wrong.
Yes, Ted.
I bestow these upon you.
John is the winner here, winning 1 out of our 5 questions. John Bailey getting it done.
The real winner is the underbetters.
Well, for all of us, for our entire fabulous crew, our fabulous families for being here on this special edition of JPW. We thank you so much for tuning in for Shamrock Sports, for everyone behind the scenes, and Jake Miller, who produced this fabulous episode. I'm Jacob Iyer signing off. It's Shamrock Sports. We'll see you next week with Spring Sports Preview.